Good evening, televiewers. Welcome to today's edition of Prime on My Media Prime. This evening, we are going to be revisiting the release rescue mission led by elements of the Rapid Intervention Battalion to rescue kidnapped Senator Regina Mundi, who has been in separatist captivity for over a month. She was rescued yesterday. We're going to be looking at the possible circumstances that led to her being freed, also listening to her, and possibly look at the implications of her release. We understand that there are very, very controversial opinions out there, with some persons questioning how she was freed without money being paid. Others say huge sums of money were paid. Actually, has been paid. We also are saying that some people are saluting the professionalism of Cameroon's military. If we look at all of this from different perspectives, we also are going to be looking at why conflict experts have not been used extensively in this Anglophone crisis. Why have they been sidelined all these years when we are actively looking for solutions to the problem? We hear persons easily refer to the United Nations or they'll refer back to the US, France, and England when we have conflict resolution experts in this country. Why have they not been used to see how they can help the government of Cameroon and the African community resolve this crisis? We are discussing this with our panelists who are in the house already. Two of them are here. We hope that others join so that we have a full house. Dr. John Aku is in the house with us this evening. He is a lecturer across some universities in Cameroon. We're glad to have you with us. Good evening.
Yeah, Leonard, the pleasure is mine. Once more, we are talking Cameroon, and again, issues pertaining in the two regions of the northwest and the southwest of Cameroon. It is quite appealing. It's very sad that we have been, for close to 6 years now, the government of Cameroon still seek a military option. And we have said, and we are insisting, like you just tried mentioning, is it that we can't have other solution to the crisis except the brandishment, the popularity, and the pointing out or pertaining publicity that we have a more professional military, at least for once. A lot of questions still surrounds how active Cameroon will be in the next 10 or 20 years. It is a country that was given based on peace and serenity. In 1982, we believe, and we're still committing, that Cameroon remain one of the models in Africa with its great stability and with standards that everything we do should be admired and equally considered to be within the hands of those whom we have been thinking that they have been there since the beginning of Cameroon. In 1961, in 1972, in 1984, what has caused or generated the present situation that we can be talking for 6 years and we are unable to find a solution. It quite reminds me of the UPC struggle and the affair Maquis that took place in the Bamileke lands and the Bassas lands of Cameroon, that we waited for the Messiah, that all leaders should be killed before Cameroonians can talk to one another. Today, others have been rendered enemies to their villages. Others have become foreigners. It's the second time Cameroon is proving again that we can't handle or we can't talk to one another. Conflict resolutions always come when a country is not able to solve. Such resolutions may be within the ambits of the government, and why not international bodies. Cameroonians accepting that this particular problem can warrant a mediation process external to Cameroon. Once we heard of what we call the Swiss talk, we equally heard of the initiative of the Accra Forum, and again, we talk of the CDN. A lot of those actions that were made on, in which of these has the government really considered as a fertile ground? The All Anglophone Talk Conference, which never, and we think will never hold. Others still think that the solution lies with the government. Can we do better? Can Cameroonians be proud that 50 years after reunification and over 70 years after independence, can we be proud that we have built a better Cameroon? For those of us that were there, for those that were not there, what history are we going to learn? What marks are we going to let behind? Will history written about Cameroon talk about us? For those who have been given the opportunity as members of government, there is a need to keep clean, straight records of who you are. Can they talk about me if being talked of John Gufoncha, as we talk of E.M. Ndele, as we talk of the Mbida, the St. Muna, can my name equally be written on the positive side? We cannot be slaughtering ourselves and things that we can use arms, which we don't even produce, and at the same time, cry of economic or financial crisis. Can we talk otherwise? We are happy that in the days ahead, as people have been promising, that Cameroon will get into a sincere, inclusive dialogue, that all sons and daughters, wherever they are, can talk to one another like people in one spirit. There is a need for the present government to come down into it, to its knees, if need be, to maybe render a national apology to all Cameroonians that we have failed to manage what was given to us.
Okay, we also in the company of Dr. Michael Ndimancho. He's equally a lecturer across some universities in Cameroon. Good evening, Doctor, and welcome.
Thank you so much, Mr. Liu, and it's a pleasure to be here to discuss on this very, very sensitive topic this evening. And permit me send a special regards to Dr. Richard Munang. He's one of the brilliant Cameroonians out there who is doing marvelously well. And those are the brains we want back home here to be able to rebuild this society. That is going down deep into the mire where escape is coming really chimerical. I think we need those brains. And to greet you, Dr. Arthur Julius at University of Bamenda. I think the one time in 1985, there is an American president by name Ronald Reagan who said America will never give any concessions to terrorists. I mean, he made that statement very, very clearly. And the FBI opened what they call the FBI Fusion Hostage Center. And this was in order to track down all, and to be able to get back hostages without paying any ransom. It wasn't too long, some years after, when 16 American and 1 Canadian missionaries were taken hostage in Haiti, and American paid up to the amount of about $17 million. Just to say that one can never say never when it comes to issues of war, and that I think Cameroonians are beginning to understand that the issues of war is real and that the war is unfolding, because every day we are having new twists into the issue of the war. And of course, the events are unfolding very interestingly, and it now be implicating all of us, and to say that no one is going to now to remain indifferent to the issues of war, because if the low people are touched, yes, that is no event. But when high profile, like the High Senator Mundi, Regina, is touched, I think that that makes a lot of news in Cameroon. And the question I ask is, human beings different? Is blood circulating different in human blood? But I think that by divine, either by divine providence or by luck or whatsoever, this has to happen for somebody to take a meaningful action and let people be safe from this meaningless war.
I want to know what divine providence, what had to happen. I don't get what.
Well, what I'm trying to say is that, I just made a statement and said it appears as if human beings are considered differently, because we have had people who have been taken hostage in Cameroon and nothing has been done. The BA has not done so much as they have done for Regina Mundi to.
Yeah, but at least we should celebrate.
Of course, we are celebrating and saying that there are two categories of people, in as much as we are celebrating. And we would like to celebrate more and more when the 5 delegates have been found. We want to celebrate more and more when the phone of Bambalang has been saved. We will have to celebrate more and more when many more souls of Cameroonians who are in the bush, who have been kidnapped, have been retrieved. And of course, they should be back with us, so that the celebration should have some steam. We should celebrate in pomp and fanfare when we know that all of us, people of the same family, are living in the same home. I hear that Cameroon is a Republican country. Yes, in a Republican country, we all live in the same room, we all live in the same house, although with different rooms, but we have our differences and we understand, we settle our differences. Some people do not live out in the bushes, and I think that it will be of great importance to all of us Cameroonians when we come to the understanding of these things, to know that every soul matter, and that no blood, no political ambition of any Cameroonian or of anyone is worth the blood of any Cameroonian, and that we should consider every human being equal. And that is why I talk about human providence. If he had to take Jesus to be sacrificed or a world to be saved, then it was good, and we are celebrating him today, even though we know that Jesus died. And of course, if a high profile like this has gone into, lived the experiences and has come out to testify, she has felt it, soul, body and blood. She has lived it. And she's able to say to the world and to pronounce that which many people were afraid to pronounce. And of course, this is like one of the most public statements that Cameroonians are happy to hear about, that we have this profile that has stood the world, that has stood the National Assembly, that has stood the Senate, that has stood the President of the Republic, that we are in a war situation in Cameroon.
Okay, Maximilian, Mark, good evening to you. Gonza Wilson, D4 Franklin, and to you, Mickey Fomukong, and Deep Tabe Ebot, and D Roland, Wiseman, Binye Valerie, good evening to you, Nelvin Zimmerman, and to all of you watching us via our social media handle. We hope to have the CPDM representative join us in the course of our program, and also to hook up with Bakah Derrick in Bomenda. We understand that the network may not be too good. We're struggling to even get him online hooked to this program. Now, the release of Senator Regina Mundi came as a relief to many, because so many quarters have been clamoring for her release.
Yeah, so many quarters, not just for Regina Mundi, but for others who are still held in captivity. We are talking of the 6 delegates in Indian Division. We are talking of the Fund of Babalang and a lot of others whom we don't know their whereabouts up to now. And we are beginning to think at some time, some people had noticed already that the government does not care. If you risk yourself in terms of administration, we don't even come after that particular incident. And so 6 delegates are still behind. A lot, again, you can imagine a top-ranking government official of that caliber, the senator could not be held in captivity, and the government is mute. And everybody has been wondering, what will the boys do this time around? You remember, we have hosted a lot of programs here that we cannot be fighting the same people we are intending to liberate. We cannot be killing our own. We cannot be instrumentalizing our own. We cannot be torturing those whom we are fighting to bring relief, those who we wish to protect. And a lot, even the international community was equally still looking at what will happen to this particular senator that was picked up on a very glorious and calm atmosphere. And we believe that politics will continue after then, and everybody will tell you its role and what it did for her release. But one of that confidence we have had is that the senator was released for the first time, and that has eased a lot of stress of many southern Cameroonians. Some equally had applauded that the boys have been so kind, and that for the first time, maybe there is a change in techniques. As the government changes its strategy, so too the arm of various groups equally adopted to the new changes. This has equally, you will not get it, that they might become very popular in some areas, and we think that what they did and what they were demanding is a swap of prisoners, and that if they have 1 or 2 members of government in their keeping, government will equally adhere to them and equally release the people they were asking. But one of the things we should know is that the government we have is not a reactive government. The government we have is not a proactive government, it's a dormant government. A government that is not moved by gestures, a government that does not move by threat, a government that does not move at imminent danger, that even faces its own very people. And like it happened with others, some were slaughtered in, people should remember that in an effort to exchange or to release others by force, some victims, civilians, have lost their life. For the first time this time around, we haven't heard of any civilian casualty, and if at all, maybe the government communique, the release by the spokesperson of the Defense Ministry, never gave details and no indication that there were victims that were considered to be civilians. So it equally may come to us to understand that a change in strategy of what we call the various fractions in the field may equally go ahead to gain more popularity in their various quarters. The government should equally, her release is going to give a lot of information and data, which if we think as people, as a government, we can react and even propose solutions to the present Anglophone crisis. Can we even consider how she was kept for 1 month? Under what bed was she sleeping? Under what security situation was she kept? Her health, everything. We need to think that somewhere there is a modest opinion that the government of Cameroon need to do more. It is just part of a sacrifice, and that everybody at times can ignore the lapses, the excesses of others and do what is right. The government has the possibility of using this case and point out issues right. The so-called, widely spoken, sincere and inclusive dialogue. Why not? All those who are arrested during the crisis, it is our country, it is Cameroon. We were all angry and the situation was real. Imagine that her statement she made that the war is real, which means those who still believe that it's a child's play, it gives us an idea that the approach to it might not have been proper for the past 6 years. Can the government come out from this comfortable room, from those who propagate fake, faulty information, those who propagate a lot of lies towards government reports and actions, that the situation is gradually returning to normal? Sit back and think that Cameroon needs a better Cameroon that is more comfortable and sincere to one another. We can do it well. We can handle it within our own. We don't need the French government to give assistance in military for us to accept that we'll continue fighting until the last person will fall. We don't need to kill Cameroonians. The people we are killing are Cameroonians. The military people who are standing on the front are Cameroonians. Military men were made to combat forces external to the state. The moment they start fighting within an internal conflict, then something is surely not going right.
Now, Dr. Michael Ndimancho, we have listened to someone like Capo Daniel, who announced that this was a rescue mission, and also listened to someone like Ayabacho, who is the big man of the ADF. He raised the diplomatic concerns, reasons why they could not do anything to this high-profile senator. Can we also understand that there was a diplomatic implication to this particular situation? Case?
Of course, there was. Senator Mundi is not someone that we could take lightly. I think Senator Mundi, if you go back history lane, you understand that this is a woman who has sacrificed all her life for this government. And at least we need to appreciate her for that. And I think that on the other side, the government needed to use every means to release her for the sacrifices she has made. Even though we are still crying that there are others who have made sacrifices like sacrifices, and they have not received the same treatment. But then we have to appreciate, and we have to be able to analyze it in this perspective, that actually Senator Mundi's case touches on diplomacy. And I'm sure that there are a lot of diplomatic links that, worked and that were wired, and people have to be threatened. And people like Yabacho, they know the consequences of this, because Senator Mundi is considered as an international figure, not just as a national figure, and therefore they needed to handle it with care. But then I would like to appreciate, first of all, the fact that the senator was not touched, and of course she came back looking strong. Apart from perhaps a psychological torture, she was strong. And I would have encouraged that perhaps they could do the same with other people. You take people for corrective measures and leave them afterwards. This is an important thing. And it shouldn't make us believe that our government is only wanting to take care of particular people in Cameroon, and that every other person should matter. Now, I would like to come back to the twists and turns of this issue. You know, when the SDF stood at the hemicycle and they sang this song, whether they will kill all of them, they'll kill them and get tired. I'm just trying to translate from the pidgin, this song as they sang. Nobody listened to them. I remember in the past presidential speeches that our president has made, he talked about the military that the terrorists are going to meet with the heavy arms of the military, and that anybody who is involved in this terrorism and whatsoever, as far as the Anglophone crisis is concerned, he is going to actually face the arm of the government. And I think we have seen the results of all of this, because threats have not solved the problem for over 5-6 years. We have only had the problem deteriorating. Now, we have gone, I'm happy at the position where Senator Mundi stood and spoke. Senator Mundi stood in front of the governor of the Northwest region. And if your memory treats you well, you understand that for many times the governor has, refused, vehemently denied that there is the conflict is at this level. And they keep on saying that everything is under control. I think that he had to take a person like Senator Mundi to come and tell the world, to tell the governor, to tell even the army general, General Ballet, who was there, and all the soldiers, to be the voice of the voices. Senator Mundi, to me, is the voice of the voices, because many people have refused to accept the fact that this war is going, is going off hand. And she had to stand there because she has felt it. She has lived it. And I know that before then, she too was one of those persons. Either she took an oath of what? It was like a taboo to say that this war was anything to put as a point of interest. She stood there in the front of the government, of the governor, to tell the governor first. I think that the first information was to go to the governor that this war is real. Accept that this war is real. That there's war in the Northwest and Southwest region, and that you should take this message very strongly. And that message is also going straight to the lower house, the parliament that is going to start next week, Tuesday, to let them know that they have refused to talk about this thing. I am standing here as a member of the upper house. I'm standing here as a senator of the republic to tell you that this war is real. Whoever is refusing that this war is real, I think that he should be checked. And going on the other side of people, you have talked about people like Capo Daniel and people like Ayobacho. I think that we have a message to give them, and that I think that they are like playing with people's lives. We should be very, very careful, because you reach at this particular point in time where they themselves feel that lives, they have to discriminate lives. We saw what happened to the prison superintendent in Kumbu, and many other people like this who are actually slaughtered in broad daylight. I think that it is humane. Don't they also think that was a diplomatic issue when they do something on Monday Vision and the world sees what they are doing, and people are accepting that they are paying allegiance to Capo Daniel, they are paying allegiance to Ayabacho? This is still something, a diplomatic issue. I think that everybody should be treated the way that Senator Mundi was treated. If you find that somebody has done something wrong, I know this is a war of legitimacy. If you find that somebody has done something wrong, you should be able to correct that person, as we have done with this murder. I think it is, everybody is happy. Particularly, I'm happy because we came at the point whereby they were giving her days, and there were even already videos around where people, trying to send out information that she was already killed. I think it is good that she's alive.
You see, when somebody does wrong, what is her crime?
That is the question, because up to now, we have not had, the crime is just that she's working for La Republique, and I'm asking myself if it is a crime. They say that they are of a different country, and that nobody who is working in Yaoundé should come to their country or should be in their country. I'm asking myself, what country are they talking about? What diplomatic relations do they have? Where is the seat of the country? And that is where the problem is.
If that's her crime, it means Dr. Ako, John Ako, you are also liable to the same crime.
One of the things is not really the case. I just started saying that in a struggle, in a fight of this nature, there are always sacrifices on both sides. And at times, one other party needs to stand in a position that will inform the other that he also is in a position of force. And one of the things which we said, that if it could go by arresting and releasing, then the Anglophone crisis would have had a perfect cause. But if we start using arresting or kidnapping and assassinating or slaughtering, it becomes an evil. Within the present stakes, it equally happens that it might be a crime to Regina Mundi for citing the government in the sense that some of them who are within the cycles, they call it the hemicycles of lawmaking, have been unable. In fact, it is sad that the U.S. Senate is discussing Cameroon. It is sad that the United Nations Human Rights Commission is discussing Cameroon. It will be sad that the United Kingdom House of Commons talks of Cameroon, and the country itself, those we call the lawmakers, have been unable to talk the issues that affect Cameroonians. It is really, really sad. It means somewhere that the interest of the common man has been sold for common stomach issues of politicians. The politicians, remember the topic you hosted here last time? Who are politicians for? Who voted them? And when the people whom you think you are representing have a worry, we need to see you take on the restroom to present the worries of your people. Remember, we are not again teaching those who are in the two houses of Parliament, the Senate and the National Assembly, that they have an upper hand. They are equal contests of power with the President of the Republic. We are talking of what we call the neutrality bloc, the benevolent neutrality bloc, somewhere in 1955 in the Eastern House of Assembly in Nigeria, when Southern Cameroonians left as a bloc. The Nigerian government could not rule. And this puts the government to grant what they call a quasi-regional status for Southern Cameroon. It means somewhere parliamentarians have a cause. Could we just imagine that in the next session of Parliament, Southern Cameroonians decide to hold a church session in Boya and inform Yaoundé that if we can't talk this, then surely we are not part of that National Assembly? Could we imagine the consequences of what government will look like in 2 days? If members of Parliament or National Assembly and Senate refuse to attend a session and say they will take a church session to discuss with God how Cameroon can be handled, or the problem affecting their two regions can be handled. We are not saying they are citing, but they are simply using a method of presenting the plight of their people. This now sincerely, after the release of Senator Regina Mundi,
you say they are using a situation to
sell their plight.
To sell their plight. Would you be very comfortable that you visit Boya and you are arrested because you are used for that message to go through? Because because
those who are fighting me, yes, they use me for that.
And you
will not be. I said you are not going to be comfortable, but they use you as what we call laboratory rats. Most often than not, are not human beings. We practice on a rat how we carry out an operation on a human being. Does not mean that the rat was meant for that sacrifice. So that is what I'm saying here. We might use international. We are equally sure, like I just said here, that the international human rights observers were equally watching at this case. And I'm telling you that the writings will be different. If by tomorrow or so, we have to read a lot of platforms, and the report was that it was human enough that she has been released. Can the government do otherwise? You'll find a lot of governments coming in again after this week to tell you that it is time that we can talk back. But we cannot. I tell you, there are fallout. Remember, there are fallout in every situation. At some levels, we might not insist or talk of what had happened before or what is going on now. But we continue laudably to say the government has the possibility. I said has the possibility. Members of the Senate and the National Assembly have the possibility of recounting what they have learned about Cameroon. Cameroon, 1961, Cameroon is a bijural state. We have two hereditary characters, and there is no denying about that. And so if we can try at all levels to handle issues affecting Cameroon, rather than depending, military armory that we don't even produce, that we can't even live. A lot of civil servants are still living on pay. Others are unable to be paid their advantages. And we are still receiving aids worth billion for military equipment. We just signed an agreement with Russia, meaning very soon we might be seeing a lot of Russian equipment coming to Cameroon on their account. And then a lot of those weapons, you find America fall out. Cameroon was kicked off AGOA because America thought that the weapons that were given for Boko Haram in the north are now being used in the two English region. At the time we are fighting our own, we keep on hurting ourselves. And the economy is getting down. We cannot gainsay that the fact that CDC, which used to produce over 24 billion every year to the government, is unable to raise 15 billion.
Yeah, but
government,
what do you expect a government to do? If people say we want to separate the country, the government should give its blessing.
Mr. Leo, Cameroon is not the first country where people have presented a quest for separation. Cameroon is not the last that countries will present, or regions and villages will present a quest for separation. I believe right through in your village, if you remember well, there were few quarters in your village than they are today. There are few quarter heads 30 years ago in your village, and today there are more of those quarter heads. Have the village divided? The fact that a family want to move over from a family, we simply check the modus operandi of the time. How can we manage the situation? You can remember, we were at 10 states. We had 7 regions before now. Today we are 10. Ultimately, there were 2 federal systems. Meaning we have been moving from one management pattern to another because of which
so if I get you very well, Ayabacho, Sako, Capo Daniel and the rest, they are not ready to separate Cameroon. Is that not what they are fighting for?
They may be fighting, but that might not be the popular opinion. The government knows very well the opinion that holds. Okay. Get to Cameroonians.
Yeah, but you are so concerned about the monies that the government is using to buy equipment. But you're not also concerned about the fact that so much war draft is being done to buy equipment for the
Mr. Leo,
on the other side.
No, you have forgotten too that others have held international conferences without drafting for war. Who are seeking for a forum to dialogue. You have forgotten of the Confederation of Federalists. We have forgotten about the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation. Conferences that people have sponsored a lot of.
There are
a lot of factions we cannot count them.